What's up, everyone? Genesis here, bringing to you a brand new episode of the Haven Exchange, a weekly podcast brought to you by the Gamers Haven Network, where each week contains a new topic for us to discuss in the show, just like last week's episode where we went back in time to the 90s to discuss our favorite TV shows from that genre. Definitely make sure to go check that one out. But before we get into this week's episode, be sure to check out patreon.com/Haven Exchange to check out some ways to gain access to a lot of special perks for the podcast and to support the show. Just like our gold and silver tier members Tashamonetsims and Nerder She Wrote. Thank you guys for your continued supports. Now, this week's episode, we dive into the topics of the political divide in the nation and review some of the current and past events and just give our take on the whole thing. So get ready to type out Genesis, you're an idiot, because it's about politics.
This is the Haven Exchange.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Haven Exchange, a podcast brought to you by the Gamers Haven Network, where we talk about all sorts of various content and topics and craziness and things that enter good old Rick's brain in the middle of the night. I just got to write this topic down. As always, one of your hosts, Genesis_GH, Twitch's 48th most entertaining streamer and podcaster extraordinaire. And I am bringing you, my fellas, Big RC. What's up, man?
Man, just trying to stay awake this afternoon. Knock out this young little topic. Can't wait to hear things coming from my boy Rick about this one.
He is ready to get this one in the bag and wrapped, and let's move on. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
All right.
Rick, what's up, man?
What's going on, fellas? How y'all doing?
Just dandy. Just dandy. I wonder what the origin of that is. Could that be a topic? Origin of words and phrases and statements? I love finding out, like, where does dead as a doornail come from? You know, kind of stuff.
Never thought about that.
Never thought about that? Shit that we say
All the time.
all the time. I don't know.
Kill two birds with one stone.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows? I wonder if that has something to do with, like, well, you know how people hunt, like, birds, quail, or whatever. I wonder if the idea was someone shot a gun and someone shot a bullet, and they happen to get two birds with the one bullet. You
think the stone is a representative of the bullet?
Yeah.
Or it could have been a slingshot back then.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking a slingshot. Some asshole got lucky as fuck, and then the legends were told of the man who killed two birds with one stone.
Mm-hmm. I bet you people are listening to this right now, going, "You fucking idiots!" And, this is the
topic,
right? Like this was. They told us what that meant 40 years ago, and we still don't know it.
I'd like to think that if there was a meaning to that, we would have figured that out or stumbled across it.
Yeah.
I don't know, but that's not what you came here for. Maybe we'll talk about that another time. Let us know if that's what you want to hear us talk about, because I would love to do research on all that stuff. I do that shit in my spare time.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with having useless information.
Yeah. So I tell myself every day.
I know so many people that will go down that rabbit hole of you have one thought and it turns into 80 different Google searches.
Oh my God, yeah. And then my Google automatic article, algorithm gets completely thrown off. I think my algorithm just gave up on me. We can't funnel all your needs. It's just blank now. It's like, nope, I give up. Anyways, what have you guys been playing these days? It's the brand new year. You guys starting something new?
Well, no, not really. still trying to stream near Autonoma off of the Xbox One, but on my off time it's still Rainbow Six Siege and Forza Horizon 4 since I got the new Series X with the new TV. So,
you're just trying to see them graphics capabilities.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I did the same thing when I got my Series X, when I got my new graphics card, when I got the new TV. Like, I mean, the new TV is like 2 years old, but you got to put it to its limits, man. You got to see, you got to see what it's capable of.
Right.
And justify the purchase.
Exactly.
The purchase, the hunt that you guys were on finding these systems.
Oh man, don't even start on that.
I'm on the hunt. I'm on the hunt for a new TV now, and of course, me being the fanboy that I am, I know Craig's listening to this going, "You fucking Sony fanboy." I keep hunting for a new TV, and I keep landing on the Sony 900 series, and I think I may have a problem, man. I think I may be addicted to Sony products. I don't know why. The brand new headphones that I just got for Christmas, those are Sony.
I get that. I mean, mine is closer to Samsung, I would say, as far as brand biasness.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely Samsung. The Steel series, like for the PC gear shit, I'm trying to match everything to be Steel series, and I am really enjoying their products.
Steel series is they're a good brand though. Mm-hmm. That whole series, or that whole, like I thought about getting a Steel series headset, but I love my HyperX headset. They're comfortable. The cord it doesn't get tangled super easy. And I don't think I'll do that anytime soon.
Any advertisers out there, feel free to hit us up. We would gladly take the product and sponsor them on the show.
LG, I'm your boy.
Yeah, there you go. Wait, was your new TV LG?
Sure was. And the last two were as well.
That's right. Yeah.
Now the real question is, the new TV that you just got, is it the OLED?
No, it's not. Unfortunately.
Oh my goodness!
It's the Nano series, which is
that's still a good one.
Yeah, pretty much like a superior LED class. Yeah, television. But yes,
that's how you know when someone has money. You walk into their place and they got an OLED sitting on their wall.
Yeah.
Man, I don't even know what that means. Man, every time I go to search for a new TV, I just panic and then give up because there's so many different terms and I don't understand it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Jody just bought a new TV for her living room, and she asked me to help, pick out the TV. And I mean, she started putting in stuff like immersion and Westinghouse. I'm like, get this shit out of here! Like, what is this?
Yeah, I'm
like, TCL is amazing now, right?
Yeah, yes.
But just 5 years ago, no. Not at all. They're great now, but like Westinghouse, get the fuck out of here.
Check this segue out. Choosing a TV is like choosing a political party to side with.
There you go.
You know the names, but everything else that falls under the product is completely obnoxious and ostensible and fucking what's the word I'm looking for? Unrecognizable and understandable for which one you need to go with. And with that segue leads us into our topic for the evening. I am the king of fucking segues. Let me tell you, I will find a link to anything, a link to the past, baby.
Yeah, all right.
Shout outs to the best Zelda game out there.
This man gives me shit for, I'm not even gonna utter the name.
This is the first. Yeah, no, you gotta just get it out of your system right now.
Nope. I'm good.
Get it out. It's coming anyways.
It's not. I will not utter the name at all this episode. Nope.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna find a way to get him to say.
Yeah,
it's not happening.
Hey, good luck, man. Good luck.
Remember that time Putin played Witcher?
Now, okay, I want the record to show that this episode, it was brought up, but I had nothing to do with it. Okay, I had absolutely nothing to do with it.
Keep an eye out, listeners, for the time when Rick drops the Witcher Easter egg throughout this episode. Winner will get a $5 gift card.
It's not happening. You might as well run me that $5.
Little lighthearted segue into our topic for the evening, which is basically politics, political discourse in America right now. We want to talk a little bit about why things seem or are very polarized between population, things like that. This is something for myself. I don't put myself into this world a whole lot. I feel guilty about that. I feel like I need to be more involved. And talking about this, I think, is going to also help me become more involved with it. Not RC. Rick, you are very much into politics and the political world and staying up to date on this. And this was a particular topic that you wanted to bring to the table for us to talk about. Tell us a little bit about sort of the motivation that you had in wanting to discuss this topic.
Well, I think the timing was perfect for this topic just because of what happened with the storming of the Capitol.
Yes, recently, yes.
Yeah, so I was kind of thinking, this is actually a good time to kind of have this discussion and just kind of see where we all kind of think we fit into that bubble or that label, if you will. Because you definitely see two sides of everything when it comes to the political climate. Or I guess you could say a third side where the third is the side of they don't like either side, But it was just, I had a debate with a friend of mine a couple of days ago when the storming of Capitol Hill started, or when it happened. Was he basically was saying, I won't say his name because I don't want to get him in trouble like that. But he basically said, hey, how come Trump supporters can storm the Capitol Hill, but they could just walk in freely, whereas Black Lives Matter is tased and all kinds of stuff just for a football player taking a knee, or, like they're fighting for actual issues, whereas the Trump supporters are just, they think there's an election that was stolen from them.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the election being stolen from them, I mean, that I definitely think, I don't know how to say this without sounding, without pissing someone off.
Try your best.
Well, I think it's a little naive to think that there's no rigged election ever. You know what I mean? Like, to think that that's just impossible, I think is a little naive, because you're essentially saying that it's not possible at all for people to mail in a dead person's ballot, or votes can't be counted incorrectly or whatever. I'm not saying that's the case here, but it is 100% possible that people are dirtbags. People can't win things fairly. Not to mention, Democrats should be very well aware that a lot of times politicians don't play fairly, because we would have had Bernie Sanders probably in 2016 if Democrats didn't kind of sway the voter more towards Hillary Clinton.
That's all about campaigning, right? And the power of campaigning.
Well, no, we kind of had this discussion. We might have had it a little bit on another topic, but the big thing was Hillary Clinton supposedly had her cronies, is what they call them.
Oh my God! All right,
you had her cronies in the media prop up Donald Trump more, because she thought she had a better chance of winning against Donald Trump than winning against Bernie Sanders. She was trying to make it seem like, Hillary's a sure bet in the DNC, and it's looking like Trump is the sure bet, but let's guarantee it's Trump, because, Hillary Clinton.
It's like going into an unranked match of Mortal Kombat to beat up some scrubs instead of going into a ranked.
Exactly. Right. It's like a black belt going to a karate fight and throwing their black belt in the garbage and saying,
against a fifth grader.
Yeah, exactly. It's against fifth graders. Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it's like she knew she was so unappealing to the voter for the most part, because I mean, she's got kind of a shitty history,
You seen that new show on Netflix, The History of Swear Words?
I only saw like the little promo trailer,
and I did not see that at all.
Well, they do an episode about the word dick.
Oh,
of course.
Okay.
But there was this like Congress election or something in I forget which state, but the congressman's name was Dick Sweat.
That's
and
perfect.
the opposing candidate was complaining to whoever controls that shit to to make it so that guy had to list his name in the election as it showed up in the phone book, which was like Richard something Sweat, because he felt that voters would just vote for him because his name was silly.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the sway that this shit gets into, is like, because absolutely people are going to fucking, ignorant people to the politics are going to vote for Dick Sweat, just like they voted for Harambe.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a couple, wasn't it like 10,000 people voted for Harambe?
Something like that.
It was an outrageous amount of people that like, wait, there are 10,000 of you assholes. I know for sure Chuck was one of them. Right?
Oh yeah,
right? 100%.
Yes.
Isn't that against democracy in itself? The fact that that's even possible to happen?
What?
To allow voters to vote for Harambe? Or is that the direct meaning of democracy, to where we can vote for whoever the fuck we want?
Yeah. Because if you essentially, although the idea of democracy is, it's essentially putting things to a vote, but the things that go against democracy are to say you can only vote for candidate A or candidate B. Yeah. Right. That's why you're allowed to write in another candidate, because it's you have the right to vote. And it doesn't mean you have the right. It doesn't go, you have the right to vote for candidate A or candidate B. It just ends at you have the right to vote.
Right.
So you can vote for whoever you want to,
Vote for Genesis.
There you go. There you go.
I'll be America's 48th most entertaining president.
God, here we go.
My goodness. That's why so many people were torn this election and last election, because both candidates are pretty awful. Joe Biden, I think, is a little easier than Hillary Clinton, and that's not saying much. Joe Biden kind of has a shady history. He is one of the main creators of the 94 crime bill that put a lot of black people in prison for little shit, and it took the black father out of the household. He's kind of one of the key components of that. Mm-hmm. And same thing with Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is essentially a super cop. She is on record withholding information that would free an innocent person. And she didn't do it, more than likely to keep her record clean. We decide that that's who we want. At this current time, when we are so much completely universally against the police for the most part, right? You think it's a good idea to elect a cop in the second in command, and more than likely is going to be in command, because Biden is not going to last 4 years.
Well, see, the argument against that is that it's the lesser of two evils, and that's something I wanted to talk about a little bit. Is how did we get into a position where we had to vote for the lesser of two evils? How did we even get there in the first place?
I think because of how we are as a species, we're tribal by nature. So I think one of the things that it's always Democrats, to the Democrats, the Republicans are Hitler reincarnate, right? Mm-hmm. And then to the left side, to the right side, to the conservatives, the Democrats are, every Democrat is Che Guevara, reincarnated. It's like you're just some socialist who wants to steal from the rich and give to the poor. And
yeah, but if we have the right to vote and we have the right to pick our people, if we can cast 10,000 votes to Harambe, how did we even come together to put A and B as two evils in a sense, to where we were forced to choose the lesser of those two evils? And I'm sure there's a lot of people that voted directly because they feel like Biden would be a good president, or on the other side, people voting for Trump thought that he would still be a good president, don't see them in an evil light. But a lot of people that I've talked to specifically state they voted Biden because they don't want Trump.
Yeah.
And to me, that sounds so insane to me that we had to vote with that motivation.
Well, I think that's just the way it is every time. And again, I think it goes back to the tribal nature of us as humans. When Obama ran twice, the first time it was John McCain, I think. And then the second time was the Mormon, I can't remember his fucking name, Mitt Romney.
He's Mormon?
I don't. Is it Mormon or is it? It's not. I wanted to say Muslim at first, but it's not that. But I think he's either Mormon or He's something strange. I can't, not strange. That came out wrong. Make sure you edit that out. To the Mormon audience, I didn't mean to say strange. Okay, but yeah, I think back then, I remember that whole discourse back then. It was, if you vote for Mitt Romney, if you vote for McCain, you're literally voting for Hitler, and it's like, well, how is that just because he's a Republican doesn't make him Hitler. It just means that he may disagree with how to better this country than you do. Doesn't make him a bad person, See,
I don't know if I was just younger and less involved in understanding I don't remember those topics being thrown about during that election.
Oh, dude, I remember I will never forget my very vote when I was legally allowed to vote. My very first time was for Barack Obama's first term, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember my dad was like, we're fighting for our democracy. We're fighting for us as a people to live. And if we vote for John McCain, he straight up told me, like, you cannot live in my house if you vote for John McCain. That's why when Trump was running this time versus Biden, and the entire narrative was, democracy this, democracy that. And it's like, bro, I heard this same shit 20 years now, where it's always for the fight of democracy, even though most people, by and large, their life is not much different now than it was 4 years ago. Right.
That's something I want to talk about as well, because we kind of are in a state where you're forced to choose a side more than ever. And when you do choose that side, you become boxed in and labeled as such pertaining to that side. Yeah. And the thing, what that does is now everybody starts to become scared to talk about these things, where the sheer idea of politics becomes almost taboo for a lot of people, where, oh no, I want to stay away from that, because of just how polarizing it is and how emotional people are towards their side, or their convictions towards their side are so strong that it can really lead to splits of friendships, family fallouts. Like you said, your dad said, you can't live here if you don't vote my way.
Yeah. He flat out was just like, no, you can't stay here.
The sheer definition of politics is the set of activities that are associated with making decisions in groups. And yet we can't even talk about it unless we're talking about it amongst our own group, which leads to further polarization.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous to me.
It is. No, I completely agree. I don't know if I want to say criminal, but it's not. It's unfortunate that we're so polarized in either way. Like, everything has to be the end of the world in a lot of situations. Like, I mean, yeah, you could definitely say that, hey, the last 4 years have not been great for Hispanic people, namely Mexicans, just because of the leader of this country is saying, hey, we're going to send you back. You're going to separate your children and all that. And, just like everything that's going on for Mexicans, I get them not feeling safe the last 4 years. I don't know if I want to go down that rabbit hole in this episode, but I mean, it is a political episode, but everyone wants to talk about the fact that children are being separated at the border, but almost nobody brings up the fact that those cages were built in 2014.
And I mean, I don't want to go into specific agendas and things like that. I want to stay sort of high level on the polarization, because I think we can talk about these topics individually as full episodes, because the whole building the wall thing, we could talk about that and what it means to Americans, what it could mean to illegal immigrants that are in this country that are essentially keeping the country running smooth. And a lot of that stuff's not really thought about. And then there's also the negative side, where you see illegal immigrants coming in with drugs and all that. And it's a whole topic so I don't know if we should really go into the specific matters, but I think high level, what you're trying to say is, it's a scary time for lots of groups of people.
Yeah, it's definitely. But then my next point was going to be very specifically against the media. But I think you're right. I think that definitely could be an episode by itself.
Well, I think the media is a good point, because I think the media definitely is aiding in the polarization and and increasing the divide between right versus left, for sure. So I think that's worth bringing up.
Yeah, they definitely play a part in that because, I mean, you've got Fox News that's completely right-leaning. You've got CNN that's completely left-leaning. My parents, namely my mom will sit in front of the TV and watch CNN all day. And I mess with her all the time. Like, how can you sit there and watch that garbage all day? Like, your brain, if I completely understand why you think the world is ending, because CNN makes everything out to be just the worst it possibly can.
What side is CNN biased towards?
The left.
Okay.
Democrats. When Trump was running up to when Trump lost, or now, I guess you could say, the world was ending, right? But when Obama was when Obama was in office, you know, they didn't really talk much about Obama's wrongdoings. It was just more of like, these are the issues that are going on and this is what needs to be done, kind of. And I mean, Fox News does the same thing. I'm not saying one side is better than the other. You'll never hear me say that.
During the storming of the Capitol shit, I was flipping between Fox and NBC to see like how they were displaying the events, just to catch Fox trying to say like some dumb shit, but they were definitely calling Trump a crazy person for inciting all the shit. And so I was happy to see that, but I'm wondering, is that because now Biden is sort of replacing their hero?
It's a possibility.
Yeah, I think so. I think what you're going to see with Fox News, and you've kind of been seeing it since the beginning of the end for Trump in November when he lost. I think you can say whatever you want about Republicans, right, as far as their defending of Trump the last 4 years. But I think the one thing about some Republicans, I should say, the one thing about them is they are very much trying their best to be as close to the Constitution as possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they don't believe, same thing Democrats did in 2016 when Hillary lost. They whined and complained about, you know, collusion and the swing of the election for Trump, but they didn't do anything outside of just protesting, you know, just little safe protesting, you know?
Yeah.
And I think Fox News is trying to do the same thing. Like, hey, we lost, you know, but let's just keep America moving. You know, let's not focus on who's in office. Let's focus on making sure that we follow the Constitution how it was written, or making sure that, you know, we keep our democracy intact even just a little bit. Because I think Republicans did not want Trump at first, but his popularity just grew massively.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I think they were like, you know what, he's our guy. And I think it's the same way with. You could look at it the same way the military is. Like, you may not like your commanding officer as a person, but that's your commanding officer. That's the guy that's in charge. You have to stand by that person regardless of how you feel about him.
I think that also is something we need to be better about when a new president is elected. You know, we may not all agree on Biden's efforts, but we should be rooting for him to be successful because regardless, he's our leader, and we should put that good energy out there that he is going to do right by, you know, the citizens of America.
Yeah.
And then it does come down to the people. You know, if he does something we don't like, that's where the power of the people needs to come into play, and we get together to make the change. I think there's more change that comes out of political activism, protests, than, you know, the person in charge is doing.
Mm-hmm. Like, I think that's how they should have done with Trump in the beginning. You know, like, hey, he's the president of the United States. Why would we want him to fail?
Exactly.
That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You know, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I voted for Biden this election in 2020. I damn sure didn't want to, though. I was, because when they were deciding who was going to be the Democratic nominee, I was 100% behind Bernie Sanders or Tulsi Gabbard. Like, those were my choices. Ultimately, I really wanted Tulsi because I thought Tulsi was she was a person who had seen combat. So she's aware of that side of everything. But then at the same time, she's also been a politician for a while. I thought she was the perfect candidate. She had combat experience. She's been an elected official for a while. I think she was like the youngest at one point to win a seat. And I really liked her, you know, but then all this stuff started coming out about her being an Assad apologist and, you know, her dad was like trying to do some conversion things or something like that with gay people. It was really strange.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it was strange, but you know, she explained all of that like, hey, like the conversion thing, that's her dad's thing, but she apologized for it anyway. You know, I didn't think she needed to, but she did. And then the Assad apologist thing, it was her just kind of doing what a leader should do. I don't know. Are you either of you familiar with the Assad gassing?
No.
So long story short, Assad was accused of gassing his own people in Syria. Tulsi Gabbard was kind of like, hey, instead of just taking the intelligence community's reporting at face value, as a leader, I should go speak to that leader to find out what happened. And she was 100% right, because it turned out Assad didn't gas his own people. It was people who were trying to overthrow Assad that were trying to make him look guilty. You know, and she was right, but they still use that as an excuse for her not to be a leader or to be president. And it's like, well, that's what a leader should do.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
That sounds exactly like what somebody should be doing in a power.
You shouldn't just bomb a
power.
Yeah, you shouldn't just bomb a country because some jackasses in Langley say, hey, this person did that. You know, for the record, anybody from Langley, if you're listening, you're not jackasses. You're all incredibly smart. I love you dearly.
Smarter than this dumb bitch over here.
Yeah. I'm definitely not the smartest person in the world, for sure. But at the same time, like, these are the same people that got us into the Iraq war. These are the same people that told us Osama bin Laden had weapons of mass destruction or Saddam Hussein had, you know, like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, why are we still listening to these same people who get us in countless wars?
We have to, though.
Yeah, we have no choice.
We have no choice.
JFK tried to get us out of that idea, and you see what happened there.
Right, yeah.
So that should let you know something. But I think the other thing with Tulsi was she was very much similar to Trump with the idea of America first. Like, why are we sending foreign aid to other countries when our people are sick and hungry and dying?
Yes.
This pandemic should be perfect evidence of that. With the new stimulus bill that just passed, we're sending so much money to other countries, but there are people here. What's the number? Like, it's like a 15 to 18 million unemployed or something like that.
Yeah.
It's a ridiculous number. Why?
And it's getting worse.
Yeah. Like, I'm not trying to be rude or evil or anything like that, but that's like my parents.
Are you sounding like CNN right now? It's the end of the world.
No, I'm just saying, like, that I don't understand why this is such a difficult thing for people to grasp. Like, that's like my parent raising money and then going, okay, now I'm going to feed the neighbors instead of the people who live in the house. What? You know,
I think that's sort of simplifying matters a little much, because you have to. I don't know how the budget works. Personally, so I'm ignorant to that fact, but my guess is that there is allotted funds to these different ventures, like supporting the world, supporting our home country, and whatnot. So when we see, hey, we're helping these other countries out when we have sick here, but there's got to be an allocation of those funds, and that's who I think would be the person in charge. The president's job is to oversee how that distribution works. Does that seem like how things run, or am I completely off base?
No, you're absolutely right. Like, not everything is ran by the Senate, and not everything is ran by the House of Representatives, you know, and not everything is ran by the president. They make it so that one branch doesn't have all the power. Now, you have some situations now where, like, Biden is going into office, and now Democrats will have control over the House and the Senate. So they'll be able to essentially get anything that they want for at least 2 years when midterms come. But like always, Democrats will do nothing. They'll either not do anything, or they'll do stuff, but they'll do stuff that doesn't benefit the people that they beg to elect them.
Yeah.
You know, same thing. Black people know this better than anybody. We only hear from politicians come election time.
Right.
They give us all these ideas of ways to improve the black family and to make things easier for black folks. And then when they get in office, it's crickets.
See, and like, how is that not something that's taken into account when we create such a taboo relationship with the term politics and the idea of discussing politics when how much of the choice really affects us on an individual level? And with that in mind, why are we so hard-strung for our side and not open to the idea of reviewing at least what the other side has to offer and seeing that? Yet we control and feel this anger towards the other side, and we don't want to talk about the things when it's, how important is that choice to us? How important is that? Does that choice affect our lives? And is the 4 years of that choice, or potentially 8, worth being at odds with each other as individuals?
So to kind of answer what you're saying is, are you familiar with Andrew Schultz?
No.
So he just released a new show on Netflix called Schultz Saves America.
Yeah. Okay. I did see that on there. I didn't watch it yet, but it looked like, which, by the way, I saw that shit and everybody was all up in arms about that other dude was doing the same type of show. What was his name?
Oh, Hassan Minaj.
Yeah, they're like, oh my God, he got kicked off because he was telling the truth. I'm like, no, they fucking kicked him off because they wanted this new dude to do a show, and they can't have 2 of the same types of shows on there.
Yeah.
Plus, I didn't realize that at first, but now I see that.
Yeah. Well, everything is race related for some reason. You look at a brown person on Netflix, and first of all, their shows are not that similar. They're not that similar at all, because Hassan Minaj had an audience and he would investigate the topic, right? Whereas Schultz is just sitting in a chair and he's giving you his thoughts and his opinions on the subject. It's not an investigative. There's no.
I don't know if I'd call Hassan's as investigative. Well, that dude was just pulling up fucking Fox News websites and shit and just going on. There was no deep investigation.
No, there was. At least the few episodes that I saw where he would, like Gamergate, he would go and talk to game developers and he would talk to people who worked in like the industry and stuff like that. Like, that's investigative journalism.
Yeah,
not saying he's a journalist.
Interviews.
Right. Well, I mean, those were interviews, sure, but it was to investigate the topic at hand. Whereas Schultz is more of, this is my opinion on. Yeah. Okay. But the reason why I bring that show up is because it's only like 4 or 5 episodes and they're about 15 minutes each. Very, very good show to watch. But the reason why I bring it up is because, he says, and I completely agree, the reason why you see that where one side isn't willing to listen to the other is because one side sees the other side as inherently evil, and you can't compromise with evil. Like, Democrats thinks the Republicans are the reincarnated Hitler, and then Republicans think liberals just want to go around killing babies all day. You know what I mean? Like, neither side is willing to see where the other side is coming from, because they just focus on the negative and there's no compromise.
How by design do you think that is? Or do you think that is general evolution of how politics would go in such a manner?
I don't know if I'd say it's by design. Although I wouldn't put it past it, just because you notice when people tend to fight with each other, real things don't get done.
Exactly.
And so, it just kind of keeps things moving. And that's why Biden winning was such a shock to me, but not too much, because Trump was such a drastic change from things like they used to be.
Yeah.
The reason why he was elected in the first place is because he was such a shock to the system. He was so different, but people saw how different that was. And they're like, whoa, we don't want that. We don't want that different. So then like the career politician and another career politician like Kamala Harris, 2 people that are almost the root of all the issues that Black Lives Matter or some of these other places complain about. These 2 people represent the things that you're trying to stop, and I don't know. I don't get it.
Do you think that wasn't made known enough or was it just simply, we know about that, but it's still the lesser of the 2 evils?
I think it's that, but then I think it also harkens back to the tribalism. I think it's because there's a D next to their name, they're forgiven. Same thing
Yeah.
with, the kids in the cages. So many people were like, I was like, Obama is on videotape saying if you cross the border illegally, you will be separated from your children.
Yeah.
He literally says that on camera, and people just write that off. Like, no, Trump's the one that started doing that. Like, well, no, you didn't care before, you care now. And so it's okay to say that. It's okay to say that you didn't know that was happening. And
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
That's fine.
One thing especially for me personally, how obnoxious and outside of the norm like Trump was, that alone got me to be more invested in politics and to research it more and to understand what it means to be a Republican or what it means to be a Democrat, and observing almost as an outsider coming into this party and just seeing what the hell is going on with this chaos. Because I've never been into politics, semi out of fear in that, oh my God, I got to choose a side. And now that I chosen a side, now I got to defend myself against these matters, being on this side for people that are on the opposing side. And that's not something I was willing to really be a part of. And even now, I don't feel like I'm choosing any sort of side. I want to still be a high level observer in seeing that. But then I'm also at the worry of being framed in that box. People that don't choose sides are also ridiculed because you got to pick a side.
Yeah. Yeah. You always have to pick a side. You always have to have some sort of a horse in the race. It's very strange how it's strange on how tribal we are as a people. Yeah, I know I keep saying that, but it's true, though. Yeah, it all comes back to tribalism. It's always got to be my side against your side, my team versus your team. It's never about the actual issue, because I think if you ask most Black people, I think most Black people share a lot of things in common with conservatism, right? With the idea of, hey, leave me alone. I don't want you in my business. I don't want you to tell me what I can and can't do.
I think that a lot of that stems from, you never gave a shit about me. You're not going to give a shit about me. So why should I give a shit about you? Mm-hmm. Unless somebody's coming into place saying like, hey, we give a shit about it. And that's what you were saying. Like, oh, it only matters during time of election. And then, oh, everybody's forgotten.
Right.
So I could totally see that sense of that. But we saw, I think during this election, a lot of minority groups come and take a stand for their beliefs, and standing up for the rights of all people, create the sense of equality. This is shit that we do need to be talking about. And it's ridiculous that we still have to talk about that shit.
Yeah. Well, and I won't say exactly what was said, but before we started recording this, I said, hey, maybe don't bring up a certain topic about something very specific, because of how damaging it is to have any sort of conversation about something and you not be that type of person that is in that topic. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And anybody that listens to this, they need to understand that it's okay to have opinions.
Yeah, it's okay. Like, it doesn't mean I don't want you to exist. It doesn't mean that I don't, I say the same thing every chance I get. Like, I love everyone. I'm different though, because I love everyone, but I absolutely can't stand everybody, like, but yeah, it's okay to have an opinion on things. I'm not writing legislation for anything, so like I can have an opinion on something just based on my experiences. Whenever I say something that is about me and my experiences, wow, I can't talk. Whenever I say something about my experiences, I can't say the word. Oh my goodness.
What is that word?
I'm trying to say experiences. I just couldn't get the word out. Yeah,
experiences.
Yeah, when I kept saying experiences, it didn't sound right in my brain. I'm like, I feel like there's an extra S at the end of that.
We broke them.
But delete that.
Nope, that's it's staying right in there. I'm going to elevate the levels on that.
But yeah, like the idea, it's about inclusion. how people feel that everything needs to be inclusive, how everything needs to include everybody, when you're not talking about everybody. You're talking from your own personal experience. It's not, I don't need to speak for me. I'm sorry, I don't need to speak for all Black people. I just need to speak for me and my experiences.
Yeah.
I got it right that time. But
there you go. Good job. You get a Fig Newton.
Yeah. Hey, Fig Newton. No, you know what? Keep the Fig Newton. Let me get an oatmeal raisin cookie.
I'll get you.
Yeah, I saw that coming.
Nah, you said one word. That doesn't get you the oatmeal. We'll start you with a Fig Newton.
What kind of Fig Newton? No. What flavor?
Fig.
Oh. Just a plain one.
Plain Jane.
Yeah, you ain't get no frosted Fig Newton.
Come on. But yeah, I think I wish things were different for us as a country. I really, I've said this before. Jody, her friends, and all them, they think I'm absolutely mad, but I will continue to say that I definitely think America is one of the greatest countries on the planet, but it is understandably broken because of the people who run it.
Yes.
I think we could absolutely be the best country in the world if we prioritize things, like let's stop all this fighting and arguing and just like try to figure out what the other side wants.
Arguing is fine. Arguing is totally fine. Fighting and not listening and not having an open mind, not having an open heart is where the problem's at. Arguing, debating is totally, I want people to call me out on shit and then I'll be like, okay, well, I want to look that up and then my mind can be changed. I feel like I have an open enough mind to take in information, evaluate, and decide. A lot of people don't have that. It goes one ear out the other, especially when you raise your voice or you're coming at somebody in a combative way, but nothing's going to come out of that. That's easy to understand, but so hard to implement.
It's more like I'm right and you wrong, and there's no way I'm going to change my mind on that, period.
Yeah, exactly. There's studies that show
you should change your mind on that, or like at least keep an open mind about it, like you said.
Yeah, you don't have to change your mind, but having a conversation and an argument, and you have that information, whether it changes your mind or not, maybe not, but that information can seed decision making in the future. You go like, oh, there is this thing, and then you go down these other branches, and there's studies that show the more somebody feels attacked in a conversation, the stronger they hold on to their beliefs.
Yeah.
So if you are attacking somebody, they will grip to their point harder.
Yeah.
Just out of sheer psychology of it.
Well, there's that, and then there's also, to kind of add to that, with the whole cancel culture. When you go after someone's livelihood because of something that they said, it kind of reinforces that idea that whatever they had thought in the first place, I mean, it could go either way. There are some people that are like, hey, I said something really stupid. I really shouldn't have said that. That's one thing. But at the same time, I've never agreed with the idea of taking someone's livelihood, their ability to provide for their family because they said something either by accident or like if it's someone who's like, no, I stand by what I said. Okay.
Unless they're like a piece of shit, sexual rapist, pedophile, fucking bigot.
People, fuck those people. But I mean, like if someone like I don't know if either of you remember on Facebook, her name was, or not her name, but her name was Emily's Heart. It was like a random Facebook thing that started. And
sounds kind of familiar.
Yeah, she had a daughter that had a lot of heart issues and she also had Down syndrome. And when the riots started happening summer of last year, she was having a text conversation with her sister and she basically said the N-word and was just like,
basically, did she say it or not?
No, she did. Yeah, not basically. She did. But she said something like these wild N-words because she couldn't get her daughter's medication because they wrecked the CVS where her medication was at. So she was frustrated. She's like, hey, my daughter's sick. I'm frustrated. She has a very sick child who needs that medication. And because of people destroying stuff, she couldn't get it. So she said the N-word. The sister thought it would be a good idea to share that. with people.
What a
And
bitch.
and then Emily's heart, I mean, she lost sponsors, she lost her job, she lost everything. And this woman, she's got 2 children, a husband. I had got into a few arguments with people that I knew, and I was like, I don't think that's right. She said something. We already understand she was frustrated. We already understand she was upset.
Yeah, but like, if you're frustrated and you say that, you could have used a different word.
No, I don't agree with that, because we have all said some awful things when we're in a relationship with people that we didn't mean.
Yeah.
It'd be different if she was walking around with a Confederate flag screaming, F, like that's a different argument. I'm saying you said it once, you said it twice. Even if you just recited the lyrics to a song, I don't think that's a punishable offense. I don't think people should not be able to provide for their children because they said something in anger. I don't like that. I feel like that leads us down the path of policing words, and I that's not something I don't think we should ever get into.
I kind of agree with Rick on this, but at the same time, that particular word.
Yeah, that might be a topic.
That word though, like, and I'm gonna leave it at that because I don't want to stray away from the topic, but I kind of see what you mean, like, because wouldn't that kind of go against like the First Amendment, correct?
Well, that's a part of this whole situation, but I won't go into the situation. But freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom of consequence, right? It doesn't mean it doesn't mean you can say whatever you want, but it doesn't mean that there aren't going to be consequences for whatever you said.
Mm-hmm. However, social consequences, because you technically can say, unless you're using speech to incite violence, which
that doesn't fall
technically is kind of what Trump was doing. But
right. Oh, I'm not defending what Trump did at all. You'll never hear me defend what he said. Not that. Maybe a few months ago, maybe before the pandemic, you might have got me. If you would have got me drunk enough, I could have defended Trump just a little bit. But because there were a few things that were the media just taking over and just making it out to be as bad as possible. Mm-hmm. But I don't like the idea of you saying something and then you not being able to provide for your family because you said something either, out of passion or because we all do it. How many times have we been in arguments with our, other halves and we've said some foul shit and you didn't mean it because you just said it because you were angry. I feel like, should your girlfriend break up with you because you said she was whatever, when she, was pissing you off or something? I don't think you should lose anything just because you said something out of anger. That's a difference though between that and walking around with a Confederate flag. That's completely different.
Yeah, I think the discussion of how cancel culture has evolved and how it's come about is an interesting concept, and how it's being handled is interesting to view. How things are going with that, and a lot of it's warranted, some of it's not, and that's where it's such a gray area in a lot of cases, but it's not looked at that as such.
And it definitely goes both ways too. I don't mean to make it sound like only conservatives deal with this kind of cancel culture, because do either of you know who Mark Lamont Hill is?
Mm-mm.
He's a professor. He was on like CNN or MSNBC a fair amount. He's a black guy professor, and he was giving a speech. I don't remember where exactly, but he was giving a speech, and at the end of the speech, he just said Palestinians should be free from sea to shining sea or something like that. Mm-hmm. And he was immediately fired from his job, and or he was fired from CNN. I think he's still a professor at the same school, but he lost his seat at CNN because saying the phrase from sea to shining sea is actually considered hate speech because it's pro-Palestinians and it's viewed as anti-Israeli, right?
Wow.
And it's the simplest concept. It's just saying, hey, treat Palestinians as normal human beings. He's not what
I'm taking out of that.
Yeah, he's not saying F the other side. He's just like the same thing with Black Lives Matter. No one's saying anti-white. We're saying saying black people just want to be treated like everyone else. That's all. I don't care about the organization and the whole idea of their Marxist organization. I don't care about any of that. I just want people to treat black people like normal people.
Well, and I think that's why there was an additional layer of charge against the people that were participating in the DC stuff, was because that the group of people that was there were certainly not treated like the same people that were at Black Lives Matter protests.
That shit was that. I saw there was a guy on my Facebook that was like, "Well, see, now they are," and because at that evening, that's when they started, knocking people out and pepper spraying and all that. I'm like, yeah, that's because everyone who was in the Capitol isn't in there anymore. like they've all left and gone home. Like they weren't treated the same. I don't understand how people could not see that.
And that's where I'm like, well, yeah, that's the problem there. But what I started seeing a lot of was people boxing the people that were there in a manner like all them racists there. But it was really the governing bodies that were essentially being the racist ones in the fact that they were treating them differently.
Yeah, I think.
And the people that were there protesting, boxing them up because they're Republicans or Trump supporters as ultimately racist is another tool that separates and creates that divide even further.
Yeah, it's definitely a dividing tool, because I will never forget that time that I got into a big argument with my parents, and I was like, you can't think all Trump supporters are evil people, racist people, because what about the Trump supporters who voted for Obama twice? They're not, they weren't racist then. Why are they now? Same thing. I would make the argument with Trump as well. Trump was not racist until he ran for president. No one really considered him that way until then. And again, a lot of it has to do with the media and how they spun so much of what he was saying into this racist monster. And some of his things were awful, but there were quite a few of them that was like, no, you're twisting that in a way where it makes him look bad. And one of the not even a conspiracy theory, but I don't know if you all know this like that, but the Democratic Party is almost completely funded and in power because of minorities. And that's just because they constantly make the other side look like they're racist monsters, right? And I think if people knew that, like if people knew that the other side wasn't as bad as the Democrats were making them out to be, Democrats would lose every election.
Yeah, but it's the same on the other side. Republicans are only viewing Democrats as like liberal snowflakes and weak-minded individuals and not caring about important issues in their sort of words. Not that that's true, but both sides are flinging such defamatory things against the group of people that are holding that representation.
Yeah.
And the algorithms and the big technology companies that are maybe not by design, but out of like accidental, where, hey, it's a good idea to let's give this person more content that we feel like they would enjoy. And then that just snowballs into content being provided that puts you in your own box, the echo chamber of information that is all under one topic. So Democrats are only going to see YouTube videos, supporting their own side, and then shitting on the other side. But if you look at the algorithm of a Republican person who views political shit on YouTube versus a Democrat one, like their content is going to essentially be the same. You could just replace the words Republican and Democrat.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely it's so strange how things have become like so divided, right? Because you can't have, can you think of one news source that's kind of like in the middle?
I don't know. I hope there is something that's out there. Part of my getting more involved is trying to see news articles from different websites that are known to have bias. And then the paranoia in my mind and the analytical sense that I have, it gets overwhelming to think like, is this information true? Is this information targeting me to force me into a certain belief? And that alone, that exhaustion of that is what puts me on the outside more, just the way my brain works in trying to take on this information.
I think it's I think it's strange with how that whole. I have like 100 thoughts rolling through my head right now, and yeah.
Real quick, we're about an hour in. RC, you've been a little quiet. What's your sort of thoughts on this whole situation? Politics.
Oh my god.
Politics.
You caught that Rick wrecking disease?
Yeah.
Update.
I got a case of the Ricks.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
That sounds dirty.
It does.
Like I just shit my pants or something.
It does sound a little dirty.
Hold on, guys. We got to pause the recording. I had a case of the Ricks.
Whatever.
But RC, what do you feel about everything that we've been talking about? Tell me about your feelings on politics.
Not really strong on politics.
Why do you think that is?
I choose to not be involved in politics because I feel like my opinions and ideas do not matter. And I feel like people that are in power are going to do whatever they're going to do, regardless of what I have to say, or maybe a small group of us have to say.
Sure.
You know? Now I know eventually there'll be some people that'll get in office that may agree with, that may have the same ideas as me, that may want to follow and, get to know better. But people can only be in power for so long till someone else takes over. And I feel like that person is going to be the total opposite of what I'm thinking or what I'm looking for. And I feel like with me, I don't know. I look at politics a little differently. It's like, I feel like there's no win for me to get involved like that.
So you feel like almost you lost no matter what.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's kind of a shame. And I think a lot of people feel that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't think you're alone in that thought alone. I mean, I know I've felt that for sure.
Now, please understand as well. I'm also a listener. So like what you guys doing, you guys are educating me as well while I'm listening. I will admit, I do not know as much as I should, but at the same time, I think towards the end, I'm just going to go back to where I was at before and not really care. Just observe from afar and see what happens. You know? Yeah.
You know what? I feel like one of the main things about people with opinions like RC is I think RC is already at where people like me and Genesis are eventually going to be. Like, I feel like he's already figured out that shit's not going to really change. It's just going to kind of be the same way, then occasionally you get those oddballs like Trump or something like that, where it kind of changes the landscape a little bit, but eventually it works itself back into the same thing as usual. I think
business as usual.
Yeah, business as usual. Yeah, he's already there. He's already figured that out.
Yeah, but I think people would argue against that point and say that in order to make change, you have to stand up. But I can certainly understand what more can people do if Trump was able to get a president. That can feel pretty defeating to people that fully oppose somebody as ignorant as Trump in a way that will then cause arguments towards people with the opinions that share RC's thoughts. And then again, that's going to close you off even more to the subject. If somebody's barreling down your throat, like, you need to take a stand, that's going to close you off even more. And like I said, that psychologically speaking, that's going to make you hold to your opinion that this shit's not worth it. Somebody's going to argue me on my opinion. You're damn right. Now I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to hold steadfast on this.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I know.
It's a loaded topic for sure.
People are so passionate about it.
Yeah.
And I get the reason why. It should be an important thing that is discussed. The leader of our country, our entire country, the leader of our country. Now you could boil it down to how much power does that leader have? How much power is he given in a 4-year term? What can that do to change my life as an individual? I think those are the reasons why I think it shouldn't be such a charged and taboo topic, because I think it should just be as simple as discussing who's going to win the Super Bowl. Like, we could pick a side. We could say, hey, our players are better. your players suck, but why does it have to be so straight to our bone and feeling that enough to where we'll hate somebody of the other side or wish harm and death when you hear the things that, like, the DC shit was complete bullshit. It was a disgrace to democracy. That's not how you do things. But when you hear statements like, why weren't they tased? Why weren't they this? Like, that's almost insinuating that you wish they were harmed. And that's not cool, right?
Yeah.
Like, is that a dumb thing to say?
Yeah, no, it's not cool, and it's not cool because I've had that same argument before where I'm like, why would you want people to get harmed and stuff like that? And a lot of times the response is always, well, they kill us, so, and it's like, well, you can't really fight fire with fire, can you? Like it doesn't.
I don't know.
It doesn't really work like that.
I get it though. I get it.
I do, because you see on one side, with Black Lives Matter, they tried the peaceful protesting, the kneeling, and the every other thing that they've tried with peaceful protesting, and it got nowhere. Mm-hmm. Things still kept going. Then you've got the other side where things started getting a little dangerous. They started breaking shit and wrecking places, and things still kind of didn't really, now I think you could make a real argument that things have gotten better in some circumstances for Black people, but that's only because we've been on lockdown for 8 months. It just, you don't hear about, obviously there's no school shootings because school's not really in session,
Yeah.
But you don't hear about Black people killing and the cops killing Black people like that anymore.
No, I don't think that's gone away.
No, I don't mean to make it sound like it's gone, but I mean, like,
they did not cure that.
No. I mean, like, the national message isn't that anymore. Like, it's
well, I think what I think was good, and that came out of Black Lives Matter protests, specifically everything that happened after George Floyd. Which, looking back, like I don't remember COVID being like, that was still a thing when those were happening. And I was looking at, I was watching that movie Death to 2020 and seeing the recap of those protests, and everybody's wearing face masks, or a lot of people weren't, but it's like, holy shit, man, that just puts it into perspective how long this COVID shit's been going on. But
yeah,
I digress. But the thing that I thought was interesting that came out of that was technology, in that has been a tool to divide us. You also saw a lot of companies jumping on the bandwagon and showcasing their support for BLM. Mm-hmm. While a lot of people can argue, they were just doing it to save face. But albeit, that's still a good thing that they can promote it, whether it comes from a sense of, we just have to do this so we don't lose dollars and sales and shit. But that is a start, a seedling to a change, in a way that we can start seeing more people of color in commercials and on TV shows and movies and things like that. It is a start to grow that sense of equality in our media and our content when you see that shit. And I think that is a huge win that came out of BLM protests.
Yeah.
Just the awareness.
Yeah. Because I mean, it's like, as far as the the brands and stuff that were kind of in solidarity with Black Lives Matter, I get it. It was kind of the right thing to do at that time. But then there's so many YouTubers and people that you would say, like, oh, they're virtue signaling. Then it's like, well, no, hold on, maybe their timing is off, but that's not a polarizing thing to say. Like, hey, Black lives do matter. And maybe for the people out there who think that they don't, maybe you should know that they do. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, everything doesn't have to be a fight. Like, I shouldn't have to go on Twitter. Like, if another Black person is killed by a cop, I shouldn't have to go on Twitter and say Black Lives Matter. And then there's going to be that one asshole in my comments is like, oh, why didn't you say anything the last 5 years? Why are you just
500 years?
Yeah. Why are you just now? It's like, well, no, just because I'm not saying it every day, all day, doesn't mean I support it less,
There was a part in that Death to 2020 movie, which is fucking hilarious, but I forget the actor's name, but young white actor, and he's talking about be a YouTuber, and it kind of goes into what you're saying about the virtue signaling, and he shows him like going through the hood at like 2 a.m. with a loudspeaker. I support you. They're like, shut up, no, because he's like doing it like every day.
Oh my God. Yeah, people. Yeah, like, we get it. Although I will say I was that bitter YouTuber, a year or so ago because same thing with the Trump and the kids in cages. Like, bro, miss me with that shit. Like, you see all these people saying like that's horrible. It's like, bro, there are pictures. There are like this has been happening for years. You're just now paying attention to it.
Yeah, but you can't fault somebody for that.
Exactly. That's exactly why I said I used to be like that, because then I started to realize like, well, hey, not everyone is aware of everything. So you can't expect someone to know what was going on 5 years ago when they weren't in that mind frame to know about it. They weren't.
And it's also, it's more difficult and challenging to be aware of everything. It is in place to make it more difficult to see everything when you are forced with only seeing one side of things.
Yeah.
Via algorithms and technology, social media, staying around the same people that have similar and sharing opinions as yourself. I don't know if I really know anybody that so strongly supported Trump that I could have any sort of direct conversation with to understand why that belief is so strong. I don't know if I'm directly Republican or directly Democratic, but I did want to look into Trump's side and see, like, Trump supporters were super passionate. There's got to be a reason for that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's because they hate black people.
Yeah. 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 I completely agree. My parents, they lose their, well, I mean, they're kind of cool with it now. They don't really give me any grief for it now, but they definitely have, they know my look on everything is to look at both sides, because I don't.
That's annoying for some.
Yeah. And it's like, no, like there's one person on my Facebook in particular. Again, I won't say his name, but he is very much that, hardcore Democrat that's, like, fuck Republicans. They want to kill your mother and your grandmother and grandfather. And it's like, bro, they're not like that at all. Just because they disagree with you on the way of doing things doesn't make them bad people. It just means that you disagree. They don't wish death on you. So what makes you think you're better, even though you wish death on them? That's not really cool. What can you do, man? I think we're always going to be like that. I have no idea how to fix something like that.
That's what I was going to ask. Where do we go, and what are some things you think that we can do as individuals, on our groups, on our sides, on the groups that we represent, or what can we do to decrease the polarization or decrease the divide that happens? I mean, is this conversation alone enough to open people's eyes, or try to start a conversation, or be the start of a conversation on the divide being a real problem? What can we do?
I don't know. Honestly, I've thought about this. I've thought about this for a long time, and I have no idea. Like, this is something that I wish we as a people knew how to do, but I think because we're so tribal, I have no idea, man. People,
I think we could still be tribal and support the side, but what can we do to stop the spread of hate against the opposing faction, the opposing tribe?
Honestly, maybe there is a way. Man, get rid of social media and politically charged media, meaning get rid of media that leans one way. You know what I mean? And just have a news site or a news organization that is like, hey, this is what happened. This is what he said verbatim. No spin on it. This is his words exactly. You take it how you think it. However you want to take it. But this is what he said, and this is how he said it. If we can get to a place where that happens, sure. But we also live in a society where the negativity is far more popular than the positive. Same thing with a negative story. Say someone posts something negative and then it turns out that negative report was false. The retraction never gains as much popularity as the original story.
Yeah.
It never happened. So I don't know, man.
I don't know. I mean, with Trump getting basically suspended from all social media, which probably a good thing, but that move on social media, I think, is going to go little unnoticed with the the headline being that it's Trump, but the fact that they silenced a side like that, and Twitter, I believe, is pretty sided with liberal side and Democrats.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That is doing that. I think was the right choice, but I also think that is a small little stepping stone, a small little pebble in the pond that is going to lead to censorship and create a larger divide in the long term of things.
I didn't think about that.
It sucks that individuals can be so swayed by a person's words that it has to lead to. I'm trying to be careful with my words here, but silencing somebody. I don't know how to say it without sounding like an asshole.
No, I mean, I would just say it. You can always edit it out.
Right?
We'll be the judge of this.
I think just like it can spin out of control, and there is no. The only people that are creating the rules are the heads of social media. No governing factors, nothing like that. So what are we going to see in 10 years, social media that is in the same sense of how the news companies are run? Are we going to see a Republican Twitter come out?
Well, so I'm glad you said that, because I was just going to bring that up. Where, have you heard about the whole Parler situation?
No.
So Parler was an app created by conservatives as like an alternative to Twitter, because of the fact that conservatives kind of get a tough rap over on Twitter because they can't say things about gender or politics or black people at all without being banned. Whereas, like, I'll put it this way, conservatives, you say anything at all that is somewhat in a threatening tone.
Let me guess, it's all KKK members on Parler.
That's the thing. No, that's the thing. It's not. It's
that's
really
what people
not.
will say.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm getting to that. So they created this app as a way, as like an alternative, because they want to be able to say things to each other and talk to each other without, it being like this like giant censorship thing, right? So they did that. Then AOC went on Twitter. And I guess after the Capitol Hill thing, apparently some Parler users were talking about, doing something like that again, right? Or basically saying like, oh, it wasn't that bad, it was okay or whatever. So when she tweeted about that and she said, hey, Google and hey, Apple, are you okay with this kind of app on your platforms? And sure enough, Google banned it. Google was like, we don't want Parler on our services, and then Apple soon to follow. And that's kind of to me, that's a step in the wrong direction, because you're not allowing discourse. You're basically like, you have to talk the way we want you to talk. Because go on any, like Candace Owens. Candace Owens brought up a very good point on Twitter the other day. She's like, if you go through my inbox right now, look at how many people threaten to kill her on a daily basis. And those people are not banned. Those people are not removed from the conversation because they lean left, and the victim is a right-leaning person. Yeah. When the victim is right-leaning, it's like, oh, it's okay. It's not that big a deal. It's just like, oh, well, they shouldn't have been talking like that, and they would have been. That's the kind of discourse you get when the victim is of the right side. But when it's a left victim, it's like, oh man, racism, Nazis attacking, and all this other stuff. And it makes it very hard to have a real conversation about what really happened. When we had a conversation about the Capitol Hill thing, I was like, yeah, it sucks, but they're just a bunch of people destroying shit like 6 months ago. I was like, at first, how are they any different from each other? One side, the right side feels like their president is having his position stolen from him. So of course they're going to act like that. We did the same thing 6 months ago. We've been doing it for the past year of destroying cities and towns and stuff because, one of our peoples was killed, which I'm not saying both sides are right. I'm not saying both sides are wrong either. I don't know. I don't know enough to have a super strong opinion, but when I see stuff like that, I'm like, to me, they look the same.
Well, and we should be able to be free to protest. Like, that is a right we have to gather and protest against, things that we may believe or find to be terrible, and we should do that. And of course, that type of stuff is going to lead to rioting, possibly, or things that people will view like, well, what are you solving by getting that done? Well, it's just kind of the side accessory that goes along with it sometimes,
right?
And we should be able to do that because the power needs to be in the people. We need to be able to do those things, and I fully support people that want to go out and protest, whether it's for something I believe in it or not. You still should be able to do that. And like you said, the DC stuff, they felt like that. Now they storm going inside the building and shit, like, that's fucking ridiculous. It's stupid. Knock it off. They listening to the news, like, a lot of people thought this was an everyday thing because there's constantly protests going on there outside of the building. Like, that's a normal thing. Well, it's maybe not in those masses, but
right. Well, it's very strange with how things are going, because I don't know if you're RC, you're probably familiar with the TV show American Gods.
Yes, I am.
There was a whole thing about Orlando Jones was just removed from the show. Well, he wasn't removed, but his character is not in the show, in the news, because he feels that his character's main message is angry gets shit done, right? And when you peaceful protests don't get a lot of things done. It's when people get angry and they breaking shit. So when you've got this guy saying that for months, for 2 seasons, where, hey, angry gets shit done, and then they do it, and then you're like, well, okay, our side can do it, but the other side can't. It's like, no, it doesn't work like that. You can't say something out there and just, in my opinion, when you say angry gets shit done, in my opinion, you're just as much responsible as Trump is. Because you said the exact same thing Trump said. So what makes you any better than him? But people don't see it. Yeah. It all comes down to whether or not you have a D or an R next to your name.
Yeah.
But what can you do?
I don't know. What can we do? It's scary. It's scary to see what's going to happen in the next 100 years and where we'll be at. Hopefully the aliens will come down to correct us. They've been watching us for years. They're going to come down and be like, listen, it's time for us to step in. You guys are going down a dark path. Let's help you out a little bit. We've been just observing
on the new season of Humans.
Right. Because goddamn, we need some help. I mean, I don't know how other countries are. I wish that's something I want to look more into to see, are we that different? Are we that fucked compared to other countries and how things are run? A lot of times you hear people, I can't wait to move to Canada or Switzerland because things are just so much better there politically. And it's like, I want to research that more to see, are we that different from the rest of the world? Or are we just this oddball, unique, fucked country, as great as it may be, but we have issues and it's not going to be solved overnight. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not going to be solved overnight.
With that said, this has been an interesting topic. One I was a little hesitant to dive into just due to my own ignorance in the subject. While I have my opinions on things, I don't know how much of that is backed by facts, and it's something I'm trying to work better to know more about, because this is becoming such a topic that is right in front of our faces. It's on the news every day, especially now because it's election time, and it's not going to go away. It's only going to keep getting, I don't know, worse, but it is something that I think deserves conversation. It deserves open-mindedness, and we need to just be okay with that. We need to not get so angry about the things I say, things you say, the things people say, and understand where those points may be coming from, whether it's out of ignorance or out of echo chamberness. Is that a word? I don't know, but I'm glad we talked about it. RC, I know this was something you were hesitant to dive into as well. Like you mentioned, you like to remain on the listening side and taking in all that information.
Yes.
So I hope you enjoyed listening.
I did. Trevor, if I had things said like I did that one time, I'll interject, but
yeah. And Phantom, Rick, Dick, your experience is in this
Case of the Ricks.
Case of the Ricks.
Yeah.
Is this what you were hoping for in this topic? I think we can open the doors to further discussions on a lot of these things, having got this out into the interwebs.
Yeah, this was perfect. Really glad to hear a lot of your opinions. It's always when we have any kind of conversation, even off the podcast, when we have any sort of conversation about politics, I tend to kind of keep talking, like I just kind of keep going on and on. I was trying my best to really, not do that. I'm pretty sure I talked way too much, but I am very glad.
You didn't even mention Witcher.
No, I didn't. Not one
He
time.
did? Oh.
Not one time. Because
Wow.
there was no way for me to organically bring that into the,
He was trying,
no
though. You know he was.
Oh, if any one of you had said anything that would have even been close to being that related, then see, I didn't say it then. I almost did.
Poland's got some really good politics in place. Oh, well, guess what?
Yeah. Like, oh, you know who's played that second game? Nope. Not gonna get me, son.
Okay. Well, that about wraps us up here on another episode of the Haven Exchange. Tune in every Wednesday for a brand new episode where we talk about whatever, anything, and everything each week. We want to give a special shout out to our Patreon members. Head on over to patreon.com/Haven Exchange. Become a supporter today, just like our gold and silver tier patrons out there supporting us, Tashamonetsims and Nerder She Wrote. They are awesome. We love and appreciate all the support you've been giving us here on the Haven Exchange.
Indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.
And yes, thank you. Go check them out. They are content creators as well. They have a lot of dope content out there. And I am the next president, Genesis_GH. Vote for me in when's the next election, Rick?
2024. Yep.
2024. 24 times 2 is 48. I will be your next president. Vote for me.
Oh my God.
Oh, Rick, what's going on in your world? Where can people follow you? Where can they check you out? What do you got going on upcoming?
Well, I am I'm bigger on Twitter now. So of course you can always follow me on Twitter at Phantom
You can find him on
GHN.
Parlor.
No, not there. And I'm also on Twitch. I did hit affiliate now, so
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Indeed.
So I'm actually planning two Twitch streams. One is going to be dedicated to my grandmother who just passed away last week. And then I'm going to actually do a birthday stream on January 27th where I'm going to play like all day for as long as possible. So definitely check me out there. Phantom_GH.
And when he says all day, he means it because this fool be waking up at 7 a.m. every single day. So
yes. Yes.
You better upload your damn emotes.
Can't do it. Don't know how to do it.
Son of a bitch. God damn it, Rick. Big RC, where can people follow you, check you out? What do you got coming up on this 2021?
Yeah, so as always, you can catch me at Big RC 56 on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Still streaming on Twitch, so you'll catch me at BigRC_GH as well. And as for 2024, I guess I'll run as this fool's vice president.
He's my running mate.
Yeah.
Perfect. I like it.
Mm.
Haven Hunters, hunting across America. Haven Hunters.
That's right.
That's our political party.
Uh-huh.
Democrats, Republicans, and the Haven Hunters.
Haven Hunters. I like it. And then with that, I'll have no choice but to get to know the political side of everything. So
don't worry, just sit in the comfy vice president chair. I'll handle everything. Don't you worry.
Say so. Okay.
All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in to another episode of the Haven Exchange. We love you. Let us know in the comments on the Discords and the feedbacks areas what you thought about this episode. Do you want to hear us talk about more politics? What are some political issues you want to hear us talk about? Let us know. We'd love to hear it, and we'd love to have some more topics on this subject. So thank you all so much. We'll check you out next week.
Take care.
Thank you.
This is the Haven Exchange.